All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is now 2:30. We will call to order the workshop of the Merced County Association of Governments. And Lucy, would you call the roll?
Director Kill?
Here.
Director Reed? Here. Director Ford?
Here.
Director Samra? Director Amabil?
Here.
Director Serrato? Director Pacheco?
Here.
Director Pedroso? Director McDaniel? Director Pereira?
Here.
Director Cervera?
Present.
And we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to public comment. This is, public comment is available in advance of or during the meeting. See instructions for public comment on page 2 of the agenda packet. Would any members of the public like to address this body? Not seeing anyone, we're going to move right on into item number 3 is our housing and homeless workshop. And if I may invite up the director of the Health and Human Services Agency for Merced County, John Checkley.
Good afternoon, everyone. John Checkley, Director of Merced County Human Service Agency. It's a pleasure to be here for the annual update and appreciate your interest in this subject. It's obviously one that has broad implications across the counties and the jurisdictions that make up those counties. And it's always my honor to actually represent not only Merced County, but also our role as the continuum of care and collaborative applicant, something our Board of Supervisors took on and actually participates in as board members on the Continuum of Care Board, which is really a HUD-designated federal body that's designed to be the primary point of contact for helping to manage homelessness. I know we had a fairly lofty goal in a 10-year plan of ending homelessness. I think at this point, the reality is really set in, especially here in California. How can we better direct resources and really manage the needs not only of our housed community members, but our unhoused community members that impact us all? So it's just it's a pleasure to have that responsibility. And obviously something I really enjoy getting to work with other jurisdictions, and we'll see some of that work here on the next couple of slides. So thank you. For annual reports, we're focusing on and we're open to recommendations. Really, we do an annual point in time count. So that's one day in January that's very consistent on how we count people who are experiencing homelessness. Typically, it's between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. We have over 100 volunteers, so it's well-resourced in the community by volunteers. A lot of them county workers, but not all. Obviously, a lot of law enforcement is involved in this as well, and there's a lot of pre-work that goes into training as well as trying to identify sites so we can make this as accurate a count as possible. So last year, we had a little over a 12% decrease, right? And our consultant called us and said, congratulations. And I said that we're not celebrating it here in Merced County. 1 year does not make a trend. I said, Joe, let's give us 3 years and I'll buy you a steak dinner. And unfortunately, we didn't get that. And I'll just can speak for myself, it's disappointing, right? Because we do have a lot of resources, and this seems to be one of those intractable challenges that it's hard to get hold of. But with that being said, we want to focus on some of the positives that we find in this, right? And a point in time count is just that. It's just a report. It's just data. It's not really analysis. But the strategy that we've used has been really consistent for really since the Board of Supervisors directed us to take on the role of collaborative applicant and administrative entity. And we've seen that with expanded street outreach, expanded emergency shelter. And then the last phase of our approach here is really how do we build up affordable housing capacity, which is really the only solution for individuals who are experiencing homelessness, is we got to get them in a house. Right? You can move people from the unsheltered columns to the sheltered column. And I don't want to talk just about numbers because these are residents of Merced County, but still that's the reality until we can finally secure housing. And as you can imagine, especially in a county that has as many households at the federal poverty level as we do, that's very, very competitive. There aren't that many affordable housing units. The ones that there are, there's, typically hundreds of applicants vying for these, and you can only imagine individuals who've been experiencing homeless for some time, who maybe have no income, no credit score, are not going to be really competitive with just some of the other constituents here. So we've really focused on those three areas as our approach to really managing homelessness. On the street outreach side, it's really interesting. We spent about $550,000 annually for several years to establish New Direction Outreach and Engagement Center. That really did, it provided some resources, it gave us information on who was out there, but it's also super expensive for street outreach with the smaller allocations that we receive as a continuum of care, or as a county, or as other jurisdictions who have contributed to this effort. What's encouraging is a few years ago, the managed care plan initiated enhanced care management community supports. So it's a benefit for Medi-Cal recipients. That allowed us to, that also funded outreach, and that allowed us to strategically pull back on funding outreach and really support some of the affordable housing that was coming in. So what did that do? Besides creating some consternation of, hey, we don't have dedicated cash flow from the continuum of care to support outreach, creating that consternation around how can we make sure this maintains a level. And the first bullet there really talks about the results of the managed care plan investment. We see that those who we are engaging with reported about a 4.5% increase, 4.2% increase in regards to knowing the available services. And that's what outreach is. It's partially making sure people know there are services out there, partially building up rapport, and making sure that folks are seen and some of their basic needs. So it's a really good indicator strategically when we pulled back the $500,000+ that annually the continuum of care with one-time funding was using, that those benefits continue. That action service continues primarily because of the managed care plan and the enhanced care management community supports. And that it's not a very complicated process, but really what that involves is community-based organizations going into these populations of focus, of which homelessness is one of them, and signing them up for services, including things like navigation, housing tenancy, deposit assistance, et cetera. It's a pretty good incentive that's resulted in a decent outcome, as we're seeing not a decrease, but an actual increase in the number of people that we're engaging with who know what the services are. So that incentive really created some good outcomes. I think when we talk about housing and homelessness too, we should be mindful that incentives create outcomes, both good and bad. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why this is such an intractable problem within our county and community and state, for that matter. Next, we looked at the overall numbers, right? We're at a plus 31. Again, you see that. It's disappointing for me personally and professionally, going from 717 to 748 individuals. When we dive into those numbers a little more, some reasons for optimism. Our shelter count increased by 32 of those individuals. Right, and that's what we want to see. We definitely, from a public space management perspective, and that's the direction of the Board of Supervisors and a lot of the folks on the continuum of care, and I know most of the policymakers that I talk to, we approach this as a public space management. How do we make sure our public spaces are managed well and the needs of the community members who unfortunately reside there are met? Probably the best way to do that is to go out there, engage with somebody, offer them services, and get them into a shelter that's a little more controlled and a little more manageable. So seeing that number increase by plus 32 is encouraging. A sub-bullet under there is actually the increase in children. To me, the children experiencing poverty in families and households is really the indicator of poverty and the impacts of poverty in the community. It's, when talking about the population whole, primarily single adults, and then we start talking about behavioral health challenges, mental health challenges, community support challenges, substance use disorder challenges. When I look at children, typically we look at them as folks that are experiencing poverty, right? The number one indicator for someone who's going to experience homelessness is going to be a lack of social supports, and your family members are like, hey, we're not going to tolerate this behavior anymore. A lot of times that's what really results, and I know I received plenty of referrals from family members who are like, I need help. I just can't do this anymore on my own. So we did see an increase in children from 41 to 57. More good news, they're sheltered, right? generally coming through the Merced County Human Service Agency through the CalWorks program, temporary homeless assistance. We're able to provide 16 days, and then we have a housing support program. So very well resourced to serve these families with children, make sure that they at least have a place that is not the streets. We found one child. If there's any emergency response we have during the point in time count, it's when we discover a child. That prompts a phone call, that gets a social worker out there to engage with those folks, see what's going on, do an assessment. Homelessness by itself for a family is not neglect or abuse. It's called a differential response in our child welfare services. And then we have resources to at least provide a temporary stay in a motel while we work on some of the underlying contributing factors. Unsheltered homelessness is really what probably impacts everyone in this community to a much more stark degree. Right? Even myself yesterday, driving to the store, I drive by a corner, there's 6 or 7 people hanging out in the corner, there's someone turning on water on the corner, meeting his basic needs, but it just begs the question. And I work in it every day and I see it, and it still, strikes my sensibilities as a community member here. I'm like, what's going on? What more can we do? We did see yes, sir.
Sorry, Director Petroza has a question.
Sorry about that. I'm confused really quick. When you say the sheltered increased to, individuals counted increased to 31,
Yes.
but then sheltered is 32. So wouldn't that be a -1, or how does that?
That's under the unsheltered negative. We dropped 1.
Okay, so I thought that was for the children part of it. But that clears it up. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, thank you. And then my other question is, when you say child or children, is it to 18 or is it above that?
18 under.
Okay, thank you.
Or 218, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
John, is there any part of the individuals counted, is there a factor in there of like, you just missed some on that day, they just weren't in their normal, like, I know that there's a lot of effort that goes on into going to the normal spots is where you would find some of these folks. Is part of that 31 increase is because we maybe missed them last year because they could have been not where they would normally be?
It could be, and one way we account for that is we take some identifying information, because typically with 100 people out there, we're hoping that if you're not in your tent, maybe you were on your bike and we run into you, we can account for that with that non-duplicating factor. I know as our point in time count started going up and we invested so much in outreach, I just said we're better at counting and better at coordinating this thing. And are those the positive increases in numbers? I actually saw a quote from Fresno where they attributed that, but it's possible, but it's such a consistent methodology year after year. I think we try to just assume that's going to be in the cake year after year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to do to provide a little more of a breakdown across the jurisdictions, right? I, again, don't think any of these things are surprising as far as where this is concentrated. So much in the city of Merced. Right, for 2026, 552 of the entire sheltered and unsheltered population. We did see a increase of about 28 folks from in shelter within the city of Merced, but then we also saw an increase of 4 folks that were unsheltered. So that, it's again encouraging to see folks going into shelter, but then also it's a head scratching to continue to see the unsheltered population maintain levels despite the amount of resources with housing and shelter that have been provided in the community. Similarly, in Los Baños, a big concentration, but also a reduction of 13 individuals. And I cannot praise the response of the city of Los Baños enough as far as investing in housing managers. They have one of my former colleagues, Christy McCammond, over there, who's applying for grants, getting multi-million dollars awards for projects to build housing that's restricted to individuals experiencing homelessness. They just added a second outreach worker. It's not something you would traditionally see in a jurisdiction, especially a non-entitlement jurisdiction in the Central Valley that's invested so heavily. I think we can definitely attribute some of this reduction into that. And when Supervisor Silvera, when you ask about counting and methodologies and missing folks, like that's a city that has on lockdown exactly who's where and when. So I would imagine these numbers are really, really accurate. Where when we get to the 500s and 550s or the 2s or 3s, it's really easy to miss somebody. So it's a flawed methodology, but consistent. City of Atwater, we saw a fairly significant increase of 13 individuals in the unsheltered column and 1 less in the sheltered column. Livingston is very consistent and has been consistent for some time, between 6 and 9. And we'll talk a little bit about the strategies after going through these numbers as well. Dos Palos, a +3 unsheltered population. And then in the unincorporated area, that includes Cressy's, the Santanellas, the Delhis, the Wintons, the Planadas. The population had a 7-person decrease. And that's, again, to your point, like, it's very difficult when you're covering such a vast area to make sure this is a comprehensive count. But again, with the consistent methodology we use, we did see a reduction there of -7 individuals. And we can talk on the next slide a little bit about some of the reasons we may be seeing these numbers. And then there's some key takeaways here. And I also ask that we provide this point in time count to you also. You have some time. It's probably 25, 26 pages, so fairly significant. But those are the numbers. You see the pluses and the minuses. As a continuum of care, we look at all those things. We're really looking at the bottom line, but also strategically how we could better serve. So again, the strategy, right? Expand street outreach and expand emergency shelter. We just talked a little bit in aggregate how much is in the sheltered pot versus the unsheltered pot, and the increase in the sheltered individuals. We've done that through a bunch of different methods. One was the Congregate Navigation Center, right? Assemblymember Adam Gray was able to secure funding for the construction of that. I will tell you, we spend almost every day talking about how we're going to maintain that thing for as long as we can. With the funding that the county receives, we get about $1 million of one-time funding through what's called the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program. They're on round 7 now, discussing round 8. Again, one time, not consistent money. It's the expense of the Navigation Center exceeds $1 million by factor of 2 nearly. We have been able to strategically, again, leverage a managed care plan, enhance care management and community supports to reduce that cost by about $300,000 is what we saw last year. So we continue to seek out how we can leverage other things such as billing Medi-Cal, which is a great resource to have for a population that's primarily on Medi-Cal, to reduce those costs to us. We've also been able to apply as the county for permanent local housing allocation competitive funding. And what that's resulted in is a different strategy that we have, and that's why I referenced the big population centers, right? City of Merced, Navigation Center, 76 beds, almost always full. Really, really difficult to move folks from there into housing, 200-day length of stay, $68 a bed day, just an expensive, a big enterprise. We've also, in the unincorporated area where you see a smaller number of folks, have implemented just a rental of single-family homes and the use of those as shelter, which is a strategy that the Continuum of Care has used now in the city of Atwater to actually procure 3 homes. So they're going to be there for a long time as opposed to just renting. Well, as long as funding and ECM and those things maintain that service. But they've been able to secure 3 homes. Hopefully 18 beds will come out of that. Our goal is to serve 36 people over the course of 3 years, but then continue serving them either as really cheap housing, $500 for you to stay there if you're on disability, that's a sustainable, or through as emergency shelter, respite care, some of these other things as we look for funding that can support that. We recently have applied the bottom there for another encampment resolution fund, and by we, I mean the Continuum of Care. And if it's confusing, it is. I get it, county Continuum of Care, and there's different approaches from both of those entities. And you could add Los Banos in there, who was the recipient of an encampment resolution fund award for $10 million that's going to create 58 homes. But we did recently apply for the same model we're utilizing in Atwater for the city of Merced. It's clearly apparent with the numbers that we're seeing here, we still have a high need for emergency shelter in the city of Merced. Same model, 3 homes, emergency shelter over 3 years, and we're hopeful that we will get that award. Some of the other things that are coming online, we talked about affordable housing. Affordable housing, right, Stephanie Dietz, the former city manager, taught me this. There's market rate and affordable. Those are the two types of housing. Obviously, we're building market rate housing in Merced County. Affordable is it's more expensive primarily, but it's also a little harder to get your funding stack. We've been very fortunate here in our county collectively to have received several awards to have not only affordable housing, but it's got a further layer of restriction for people experiencing homelessness. Right, so you have to, not only do you have to meet the poverty guidelines, you also have to prove you're homeless or at risk of homeless. So now you're competing in a like pool of people. We've opened 1213 V Street, 95 beds here in the city of Merced. That has been an interesting, some unexpected challenges is trying to match those folks with the criteria for Public Housing Authority housing choice vouchers. So they'll have 20-year commitment of a rental assistance. That's created unique challenges, which has resulted in 20 of those units being vacant for over the course of the last 12 months. So it's a complicated mix between being approved to stay at the home, at the project, and then now you also have to qualify to stay with the Public Housing Authority and through their voucher program. It's created some logistical challenges as well as just what's been an endearing vacancy rate that is really, in my opinion, not acceptable. We also opened our street, 21 units of veteran housing through a Home Key Award. City of Merced is the lead applicant. That recently opened probably within the last 3 months and has been full for about the last month. Just the difference in management and approach and population, I think, has really contributed to the success there. We've received an award here through the most recent Home Key Plus application, again through the City of Merced, and that's for a Park Avenue project with 65 units. So that will be units that are affordable. They have a voucher tied into them through the Public Housing Authority, so individuals without income will be able to stay there. And it also has 20 units set aside for veterans, of which I'm happy to report. And I just talked to the VA in Fresno yesterday. We're literally running out of veterans who are willing to take housing within Merced County. We're in a really good position, to reach what's called functional zero, where there's enough beds for people that want the bed to have a place to go. That project is probably 18 to 24 months away from opening. We have 58 units adjacent to behavioral health through a Home Key Round 3 grant. That has done the site work started. Now you get into the permits and the flow, and I haven't seen much work beyond the leveling and some trenching. But again, we're looking at a 12 to 18 month opening. And then in Los Baños, again, through the hard work of that city staff and the focus and the direction of their city council, another 58 units that will increase our total in development to 181 restricted to people experiencing homelessness, affordable housing units. They'll join the 114 that we have operating. And then right there in the middle, you've got the Merced County Rescue Mission, Cone Avenue campus. They are moving at a significant speed based on their funding and resources. They're building the second story of what's going to be 40 studio apartments, as well as 32 short-term post-hospitalization beds. So a total of 72 beds from that project as well. So we've got a significant amount of housing in the pipeline. I think we've gone to annual because these things move so slowly. If I'd been providing quarterly updates, it probably will look real similar, but it is encouraging to know that we have so much housing stock in the pipeline in order to address the unmet need. I know there's other projects that are conceptual at this point, and primarily through the Merced County Rescue Mission and primarily on Cone Avenue. They've secured some property. I don't have much information beyond that, where they're interested in creating kind of a similar to what the projects that we're seeing now, but homeless type village, smaller houses, cottage homes, etc. They've got good partnerships, support, and at this point, I'd even say some expertise in how to get these across the finish line. Just for example, their phase one of their project was 32 respite care beds and 20 permanent supportive housing units, and that's been in operations for years and is full and quite successful. And that kind of is a conclusion of the high-level update. Happy to answer any questions, bring back any information you all would like to hear, as well as recommendations for our next update here, which will take about 12 months for us to put together, but we're happy to provide it. Also, any city councils, anything that's helpful from an information standpoint, we'd be happy to provide that to any of the jurisdictions.
Right, thank you, John. Does any members of the board wish to ask any questions? Director Pereira.
Yeah, could you go back to the slide with where Josh asked the questions? I guess yeah. So of the 740, so how many beds do we currently have available in Merced County?
It was 403, I believe.
Okay.
Yep, 403. So that was the total beds. And that number will fluctuate based on how many children, again, come in, because those are counted as sheltered. So that number could fluctuate a little bit through the course.
Okay. And then of the beds that have been funded, what's the total of those? I mean, it's not 181 and 113, right? It's more than that.
I believe it is.
Isn't one of the rescue mission, one of their projects funded?
So their 72 beds are fully funded and under construction, and we have 58 in Los Baños, 58 in the city of Merced, and 65 in the city of Merced, for a total of 253 across those 4 projects. I do want to point out, some of those are designed to be transitional housing units, right? There'll be programs, sober living type environments, and some of those will be permanent, the majority permanent.
So about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, both John Checkley and Bruce Metcalf told me independently that in about 2 years, we would virtually have a bed for everybody that was homeless in Merced County, and we're getting pretty darn close. So congratulations to everybody in the continuum of care, and I want to also point out and recognize Mayor Amabil. I was on the continuum of care for, I think, 5 years, and we could not get the city of Los Baños to do anything except complain, and that has, with with you guys, that's a total turnaround and is appreciated, and I think needs to be recognized, because the continuum of care can't do anything without the jurisdictions being willing to work together, and so, anyways, it's nothing short of really a miracle, in my opinion. And I know it's not a miracle, it's hard work, and we're fortunate to have, guys like John and Bruce in our county. But when we talk to people outside of our county, they have no idea of how our team gets this done. So, really, these folks are amazing. Yeah, you bet.
Anybody else?
One thing.
I'm going to go Stacy and then Director Amabil.
I heard you at your early comments, John, kind of talk about how disappointing some of the numbers are for you. But I just have to say, I think a lot of people know that MCAG was the collaborative applicant, was the lead on the continuum of care for like a decade, and that was before it came to the county. I have a special appreciation for how hard this work is, and so I just can't let you walk out and be like, oh, you're doing great work, your team is amazing. I mean, the jurisdictions are participating like we haven't seen. Just keep up the good work, and thanks for coming to visit us once a year.
I appreciate that. Say, if I could just add, what keeps this work going, really, we have a trusted advisory group, and we've met with those folks. Those are folks who are experiencing homelessness. They talked about dignity, identity, and hope. And it's real hard to hear people you're trying to serve talk about those 3 things and not have a little hope. So I just want you to know my disappointment is just wrapped up in having this really high hope of come on, let's go. But then the reality is I live here, I drive around here, I recognize, what the challenge is, but just motivation. More motivation. Thank you.
Director Amabil.
Well, I'm going to echo what has been said, and John, I want to thank you on behalf of the City of Los Baños for all the fine work you're doing and making it easy to work together, and thank the Board of Supervisors for taking this on, and you and your staff. It's a lot of work, but it needs to be done, and you care, and that's a big part of it, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John, I'll echo some of those. You just talk about timing and the way things work out. I remember when I first got to the county, John was an analyst, whatever your title was here, and then as we really dove into this housing and homelessness issue as a county, you kind of like created this, not create this position, but you were the guy for the position, and ultimately you become the director of the organization. And so how lucky are we that you brought all that experience and that passion with you to the level that you're at now? And I feel like from our very early on conversations, homelessness, you know, as you say, is we're in the 10-year plan to end homelessness. It's always 10 years away from being done. But then as some funding became available, especially during COVID, in some of those programs, even before that, but a lot during COVID, we really were able, like, it's a challenge, and we're trying to solve that challenge. But I also want us to reflect on our challenges when you look at it on paper, the numbers, ours is still solvable. Just imagine if you're an LA County, and like, I don't even know how they wrap their head around it. And then last but certainly not least, under the mayor's leadership of the City Council of Los Banos, really stepping up as a partner. That's what the county can't do it all by itself. I know that there's resources and avenues that we can get, but we ultimately need the city jurisdictions to step in and for the City of Los Banos to recognize that without that partnership, we're going to be not getting a whole lot of stuff done. By the city, like, taking some of their local resources, creating that person that's in their organization, that their focus is strictly on this, it just makes it so much easier. And I think it's part of the big reason why grants are successful, because you're getting partnership across the board. And anytime you go to look for a grant, when they look at these grants and they're doing their scoring, anytime that you can really show that there's multiple organizations, they kind of look at it as a twofer, right? They're helping two jurisdictions with one grant, and so it's good work on them, and hopefully that continues. And I encourage all other cities to jump on board.
We just keep a letter of support for the City of Los Banos on file at this point, and we're so happy when we get the request form. And again, I appreciate y'all spotlighting that work.
Perfect. All right. If there are no further questions, John, thank you, and we'll see you back here next year.
Sir, thank you all.
Okay. Is there anybody here need a break? Because we're going to jump right in, because I know that there's a lot of stuff to get done today, and I know there's some people that have to really hoping that we finish by 5. So with that, we will adjourn from our housing and homeless workshop, and we will call, I guess we already called it to order. We'll start with our regular meeting. Is there anyone that would like to lead us in the invocation? Perfect.
Lord, let everyone hear these words. Everyone thinks that the scariest part of Noah's Ark was the flood. But they're wrong. It was the design. God gave Noah the exact measurements, the exact wood to use, and how to seal it perfectly. But something was missing. There was no steering wheel. The ark wasn't built to be steered. It was built to float. Noah wasn't the captain. He was the passenger. God was the one in control. And maybe that's a lesson for us. Sometimes we keep trying to steer what God has already promised to carry. Trust the one who designed the ark, because he's the same God carrying you through the storm. Amen.
All right, we'll officially call the meeting to order at 3:03, and if I could get the birthday boy, Director Kale, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Lucy, we're moving to 4B, which is roll call.
Director Kale?
Here.
Director Reed?
Here.
Director Ford?
Here.
Director Samra?
Here.
Director Amabile?
Here.
Director Serrato? Here. Director Pacheco? Here. Director Pedroso? Here. Director McDaniel?
Present.
Director Pereira?
Present.
Chair Silvera?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, then we will move on to item 6, public comment. This is the public comment is available in advance of during the meeting. See instructions for public comment on page 2 of the agenda packet. All right, are there any members of the public who wish to address the board? Not seeing anyone, we're going to move right along to item 7. Item 7A is the Caltrans report. Caleb, thank you for being here. There we go.
Members of the board, good to see everybody. A couple of updates. So last month, the California Transportation Commission approved $540 million in transportation investments to improve travel times, shore up aging facilities, and add new layers of safety around schools and community centers. Happy to report that 2 projects within Merced County were awarded. The first one was $6.484 million for State Route 59 intersection control project. The funding will be used to construct a single-lane roundabout at the intersection of 59 and Gerald Avenue, just south of the city of Merced.
Gerard.
Gerard, excuse me. Thank you. I won't make that mistake again. The second one is $2.393 million to support MCAG's Santa Fe Drive pavement rehabilitation project.
Yay.
The project will rehabilitate approximately 25 miles of deteriorated roadway between the city of Merced and Atwater in Merced County. Also last month, Caltrans announced the fiscal year 26-27 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Awards. We had a total of 170 applications and asking over $74 million. It's the most applications we've gotten and the largest dollar amount. Unfortunately, we only had $23.6 million. We did have 4 of our partners within District 10 were awarded: City of Jackson in Amador County, TCTC of Tuolumne County, the City of Waterford and Stanislaus, and the 4th recipient is MCAG for their application for the Merced Rural Suburban Mobility Hub Strategy. And that's going to be for $275,000. So looking forward to working with the team on that. The next cycle call for applications should be in August. Applications will be due in October. So I'll be giving announcements for that. And we're also going to be doing some more targeted outreach to the cities within our district, especially ones that haven't applied before, to get more interest in the planning grant program. One funding reminder, the Federal Transit Administration has reissued its call for applications under the fiscal year 26 pilot program for transit-oriented development. There's $28.5 million available for that, and the applications are due on July 10th. And I do have one call to action for you all. So District 10, we have we call it a BPAC, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and it's led by folks within each of the 8 counties within District 10. We currently do not have any representation for Merced County. We like to get at least 1, if not 2 folks from each county. Typically, there's people of the public that are passionate about active transportation, not elected officials. So if you guys have anyone that you know that's passionate about active transportation, would like to participate, please get in contact with me. We have it's a quarterly meeting, and then usually there's like one committee meeting for 2 hours in between that to go over agenda and talking points and whatnot. The next meeting will be Wednesday, July 8th from noon to 2. Some people come to the office, but there is a virtual option, obviously, because it spans several counties. And then a couple follow-up items from last month. Supervisor McDaniel asked about the A-frame barricades on 140. We're looking into that. This is part of the district has looked at the stretch of 140, and there's a lot of improvements that we would like to make along that stretch. There's a lot of very narrow areas of pavement that we're going to be looking into. Unfortunately, that particular location has a box culvert, which requires you have to, I don't want to get into the details, but it takes a lot to upgrade that. I do have the maintenance team working on some temporary improvements as the team is outlining permanent solutions at various locations on 140. Supervisor Pereira inquired about the intersection of 59 and Bellevue. I do have the maintenance and traffic operations teams looking into making improvements at that intersection, particularly with the potholes and looking at the power lines and getting folks through there a bit more efficiently. And then lastly, on the Los Banos, so we do have the project management team going to be reaching out to those property owners and meeting with them in person in July. That concludes my report. Unfortunately, I won't be here next month, but my planning office chief, Sylvia Dyack, will be giving the report, and then Charlie Doe from project management will do the quarterly project PowerPoint presentation. So that's all I have for today. Happy to take questions or anything back to the district.
Thank you, Caleb. Director McDaniel.
Yeah, thank you for the report. Thank you for the follow-up. I appreciated the email on that. So will you be at NACO in New Orleans with us next month? Is that?
If you could pay my travel, traveling out of state is a little bit difficult for us to get reimbursed.
I thought maybe that was already pre-planned and that's where you're going to be.
No, I have a quarterly in-person statewide meeting at headquarters on that day.
Our meeting's way more fun than that. Right. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Director.
Two things. Well, I know that you guys, Caltrans does work on the on-off ramps to, just how far is the responsibility of Caltrans before the lower jurisdictions take over? Because in Livingston, you know, there's on the bridge itself, there's a lot of cracked asphalt and all that. I'm not sure. I'm sure our public works would, but I just thought about that right now. Just where's the responsibility end and start?
It depends on where the right-of-way is and where, you know, if it's a bridge, chances are it's ours. But if you have those locations, I can definitely look into those that need attention.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned it, because somebody was mentioning to me on the way here, hey, we got potholes here. I say, I don't know if it's city or Caltrans, but I'll ask. Another thing is on through Livingston Landscaping, seems like these wild sunflowers are taking over all that landscaping plans that Caltrans put in. There seems like be taking over everything. I don't know if there's any way to do that, because it's those tiny little sunflower ones is just going everywhere now. I don't know if you notice that or not, or
I'm not quite aware of it.
Huh?
I think it was a beautification project.
No, but even when you get into Merced part of the way off of 99, you see the same thing on side. It's just taking over, but what's doing is it's smothering the landscape that's put in. It's just starting to smother it.
So it's like an invasive.
Yeah. So I just thought maybe next.
People spitting their sunflower seeds out.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
They must be doing pretty good because those are pretty high up, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought maybe you guys can look at that. Thank you.
I just want to add on that for the maintenance. Often, and I know this came up with Livingston in particular, there are local maintenance agreements that in my mind, you typically, Ben, and will confirm that if it's a surface maintenance issue, that it's a city, and if it's a structural issue of the bridge, it's been Caltrans. But I don't think that's a universal rule. I just know that a couple of the locations historically we've looked at in Livingston there's been a local maintenance agreement.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm sure our public works, they know. It was somebody called me on the way here, and I said, well, just perfect timing. I'll just ask, but we'll find out.
That's not a regional project.
Yeah. Very good.
We can add an urgency item and just make it a regional
By
project.
5 o'clock today, so I'm going to let
Thank
you
you.
guys talk offline. Is there any other questions for Caleb. Caleb, thank you so much. Appreciate the sorry, Director Pereira.
Yeah, I got one. I could use some help. So at the intersection of Snelling Road and North Highway 59, on the southwest corner, the property owner is George Reed, and they would like to take out some oak trees that are there, which is legal in Merced County. We're all good, right? It's not an issue. But they've been waiting. They planned on starting the work on June 1st. It was a Monday. They're still waiting for an encroachment permit from Caltrans. So could you look into that and help them if we could?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, Caleb. Appreciate it. Moving on to item 7B. This is the CalVans presentation. Sid, you're up.
Thank you.
There's a button to your right you can on the front of the podium there that'll lift it up.
By your hip.
By your hip?
Oh, to lift the podium up.
There you go.
You're Merced County.
I'm used to Madera County digs here, so.
We understand.
Nice to be in a fancier county every once in a while. So I am Sid Nugg. I'm the executive director of CalVans as of a few months ago, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to present to MCAG here. You guys are one of our 11 members. I have my slideshow presentation here, and then I was informed I have roughly an open-ended period to speak, and so I thought I'd take full advantage of that. I'm kidding.
You know I wouldn't say that.
We know Sid.
Very capable of it. So what I'm going to do instead is kind of maybe briefly go through the slides at some point, maybe not, but just get sort of to the point. I was brought on to CalVans, the California Van Pool Authority, as I mentioned, but some months ago. A little unexpectedly, inadvertently, but with the mandate from our board, including my chair here of our board of directors, Supervisor Poitras from Madera County, Rob Poitras, to look very carefully at the agency and figure out ways that we could turn around our operations, figure out a strategic plan that built in a sustainability and long-term profitability dual goals within the agency, largely because we are self-subsisting. We don't, unlike a lot of other transit agencies, get the same benefits of federal or state pass-through funds. We don't get federally programmed funds. Over time, I hope that'll change, and those are among the objectives I hope to achieve in the next several months and immediate years. But our sort of primary focus then is making sure, first and foremost, that we're getting everything right, running kind of truly like a business. And I know CalVans over the years has had varying relationships with our member agencies. Some of our member agencies see us a lot more present in their jurisdictions. Some of our member counties see our vans throughout their county and servicing largely the farm worker, farm labor population of California, as well as some other components of rural California workforces, some in the warehousing sector, industrial sector, and the state and federal workforces, workforces as well. But our sort of bread and butter and the largest component of who we serve is in the agricultural sector and are the farm workers that really drive California's agriculture. And so we are present in some counties where California ag is strong, like Monterey County, like other Central Coast counties, Ventura and Santa Barbara. We are based in Visalia, in Tulare County, originally from Kings County, and originally a project jointly conceived by Kings County with neighboring counties like Fresno. But we're not as strong in the Central Valley as we once were. And one of the things that I hope to express from the get-go is our agency is, because of our nature, because of how we can sort of freely structure our services to meet the needs of the sectors we service, but also our member agencies. We have as much ability as we have partnership and participation with our member agencies to make big things happen and good things happen. So to the extent for any of our directors here at MCAG today, you want to see more of CalVans, our operations, present in any of your respective jurisdictions, it's a matter of a conversation with me and my staff. It's a matter of looking at your employment base, what your needs are. And then we, as a part of our longer term agenda, are looking to build out our fleet capacity through multiple means so that we can not only be present everywhere our board and our member agencies would like us to be, but we can be everywhere where the demand is for our services. Because ultimately, CalVans was formed over 25 years ago after an unfortunate incident, I think on the border of Fresno County, where 13 of 15 farm laborers unfortunately passed after a road accident with a big rig that led for local officials, local leaders to come up with this concept, which is to create an affordable, safe, focused and efficient transit service for, again, the farm labor community, but also, as it's grown over time, other workforces. And our safety record is impeccable among transit agencies that report to the Federal Transit Administration. We are at the very top percentile for safety. We haven't had a single fatality or loss in any of the tens of thousands of people we've moved. We do have incidents on occasion, but our incident rate and our loss ratio in the insurance parlance is extremely low, very efficient, and very effective in terms of promoting and implementing safety. Our vans are fitted in order to achieve that high level of safety with telematics equipment, with safe physical safety and restraining equipment, harnesses, etc. Drivers are trained. Drivers are medically checked twice, particularly if they're drivers that are also here in California through federal programs like the federal H-2A guest worker program. It's a requirement of that particular visa status for medical checks. Drivers are tracked. A lot of our back-end infrastructure reminds me of some of the tech we see in the Bay Area right now for the transportation network companies that are based there, the private ones. So, we do pretty remarkable things with a very limited budget. And I was quite impressed when I came onto the agency as its lobbyist and consultant. And when taking over as the executive director, I've only been more impressed by how much gets done with a limited dollar operating base and a staff of 20 or so who do the world of efforts on behalf of the agency, including the direct mechanical work, logistical work, as well as the back-end work. So a remarkable team, a remarkable project. When I came on board, the initial review I wanted to go over with all our member agencies was an analysis that I had started as the agency's consultant and lobbyist about its balance sheet, some of the big structural challenges it had going forward, structural payments, contracts that it had signed, things that we needed to refocus, pivot from, unwind, come up with new approaches. I only had limited capacity in the consulting role. Now as executive director, with the sort of grace and partnership of the board and our executive board, 4-member executive board, we've been able to accelerate as a staff many of those efforts, and we're looking to all kinds of ways to kind of break existing models, implement new methods for achieving what we need to achieve in a more cost-effective manner, new partnerships with public and private entities, some of which will be presented to our board, including Director Samra, who shares board seats both here and on our board. And while all of that is good stuff that we're looking to achieve, as well as landing federal and state support, as well as landing our Proposition 4 funding, which we were fortunate to get $15 million line itemed in that voter-approved ballot initiative in 2024, that now I am clamoring folks at the legislature. The last time I spoke with several of the MCAG members, I was at the Capitol sounding the alarm bell about how that money needs to be authorized, appropriated in our pockets sooner than not. something I continue to do. I wanted to be upfront with every one of our member agencies and say, at the same time as we're doing every effort, making every effort to change, reform, become more efficient, look to new sources of revenue, shake up our business model, I want every member agency to know what the suite of potential options are if we reach financial straits, which we haven't. We've recovered in the summer season. We are now cash flow positive. I haven't had to have the difficult discussion with member agencies about what some of those measures might look like, but I wanted to be upfront and transparent that, we are a multi-member agency that hasn't asked for member dues. Apparently received a loan from a few member agencies some years back that was repaid, but other than that, we don't really ask much for our member agencies, but we contribute back. We contribute, depending on the member agency, sometimes millions of dollars in National Transit Database funds. Overall, somewhere in the range of 8 to 12 million. I know it's a fraught estimate, something I've talked about with COG staff with regard to that exact number. But if we just look at it as a ballpark type thing, we do give millions back to our local jurisdictions and can do more. We also give millions to the state and can do more. And right now, as we're structured, we don't receive a cent of that back. So we do provide real value. In addition, we provide, we're partnering with various state entities that need us and need partners like us in order to sort of move forward as they implement their project work here in the Central Valley and other parts of rural California. The affordable housing, climate GGRF funded Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities program, which is a multi-$100 million program that brings funds throughout California, including rural California. We've somehow become the premier transportation transit provider for those projects, and there are projects located here that our partnership was a part of enabling. We have partnerships with our Caltrans regional offices as they look to mitigation opportunities, as they have new statutory requirements to mitigate to certain high standards and need to look at every option under the sun, which ends up including us. So there's a lot of value, both direct and indirect, that I hope that we already provide every one of our member agencies and jurisdictions in which we operate. But I'm always cognizant of the fact there's more we can do. And I'm more than happy to have that conversation, as I said earlier on, with each and every one of the directors here today to talk about what we can do for your respective jurisdictions. I think I kind of covered everything, and maybe that'll save me the need to go through the slides, but there are nice pictures and videos and infographics and such. So if anybody wants me to, I'm more than happy to page through that. I know it's also available for your own reference later on, but I think that pretty much covered everything I was hoping to discuss.
Okay, so I think with that, then I see Director McDaniel has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Sid, thank you for coming and being live here.
Yeah.
Answer questions. I know we had a discussion before. Have you looked at the numbers for Merced County, and do you see a bigger opportunity for Merced County?
I have looked at the numbers for Merced County. They are not where I'd like them to be for a county like Merced, particularly because of Merced's strong the strong presence of the agricultural sector here. Like I said, our bread and butter is in the ag sector, and we have a lot of great relationships with farm labor, contractors, with growers themselves, and I think that's kind of developed over time. These are business customer relationships that have evolved over time and make up the mainstay of our portfolio, and those can happen for a variety of reasons. It was a little interesting to me that we aren't more present here in Merced, particularly in the ag sector. But as we look to expand, it's sort of an easy, low-hanging opportunity, frankly. Some of our other member counties where we're even less present, I have to it requires a greater exercise in thinking about if we wanted to operate in those jurisdictions and provide on-the-ground value in addition to some of the sort of indirect value, what that would look like. But I don't see a challenge in Merced's case. It's really just once we are able to build up our inventory a little bit more, fleet, focusing our marketing time and attention, partnering with some of the growers here, letting them know we exist, we end up being a really good solution for a lot of the growers in California, especially as they pivot more to the federal H-2A program, which requires them to use a third-party transportation provider for movement of their workers. Workers under that program can't move themselves, this is sort of a broad generalization, cognizant we have attorneys at the dais here, so I don't want to wholly misspeak, but
oh no, we'll take care of them for you.
no. Well, I'm rusty with my law, so I'm not gonna. I just know enough to know. Don't try not to misspeak too much.
So when you said the marketing, does the marketing lie on us, or does it?
No, we have.
You guys take that responsibility, or do we partner
dedicated
you with
marketing
NGOs
team.
or something like that?
Yeah, I'd like to say we have a dedicated marketing team. It's really just staff as available, staff that are in regular contact with many of our large labor contractors and their grower clients or the growers directly. In the past, when we've wanted to market, we've shown up at various events or moments in relevant to the region, a county event, a county ag event, that type of thing, if the county farm bureau has an event. So we find ways to be visible and table our services and let them know that we're present. And again, I think in a lot of cases when growers find out we exist and how we operate, and sort of we can take that whole side of their operations off of their plate and directly handle it, and again in a hopefully cost-effective and efficient manner. Not usually a hard sell. It's more actually our needing to have more fleet to meet that demand, and ultimately more staff and more locations. We're present in 7 locations throughout the state. We have 11 member agencies. In my slideshow presentation, I would have listed through the member agencies as far south as Imperial, Riverside, coming on up through the Central Valley and the Central Coast, and then right now we're only as far north as Monterey County, though operations of ours actually extend all the way up to Napa. We've had Shasta County inquire Napa we need to bring on board because we're so present there now. And we also operate actually in Arizona and Nevada. So we're a California Joint Powers Authority, but we're pretty significantly present for the winter growing season in Arizona, Yuma County, and slightly present in Nevada, just there on the east slope.
Because we were impressed when we did the County of the Chair meeting in Monterey County. Cal Vance was very present and shuttling us around for RCRC. Yeah. And I got to say, the transition from you, usually I see you doing water presentations, and your transition into transportation has been quite impressive. Thank you.
It's been a learning experience.
Any other questions?
Don't ask me anything about water. I've completely forgotten about water politics and policy in California.
I just have one quick question for you. So when you talk about presence in Merced County, I've actually noticed in Las Vegas, I saw at one of the motels there, I saw a bunch of Cal vans there. How do you guys track that, like, through the season as work, the work changes? It starts in the south and makes its way to the north. What county, or how do you track that county's benefit if at the start of the season they were all down in, let's just say, Kern County or Kings County, but then as the season goes on, now they're kind of operating in Merced County for a while?
Our vans are tracked kind of to the waypoint, to the mile, and as soon as they're moving, their GPS data is immediately sort of taken upon the commencement of operation of the vehicle, and then every quarter of a mile thereof, and it's tracked by our system. So pretty much we can capture down to, again, a quarter mile or even finer resolution exactly where those miles are being achieved, and our system then sorts it into the relevant jurisdiction. So it's actually impressive, a pretty impressive back-end operation, software operation that does that. And the vehicles are constantly pinging our system. We have 2 tracking systems, in fact, that overlay. One that's more focused on the vehicle side, setting the information up, and then we have a second vendor that helps us in terms of the data processing and ultimate sort of consolidation, synthesis of that data into usable data for NTD reporting, for FTA reporting, for State of California reporting, for reporting back to our member agencies. There's actually, frankly, a lot of jurisdictions in California who aren't a member agency or within a member agency of ours who ask us for that data because they realize, hey, this entity is generating a lot of useful miles that we can use for either state or federal compliance, and we'd like the credit for that. And so we just go through the extra effort, give them the miles, and we don't actually charge for any of that service as well, which is nice of us, but I'm realizing as I've seen it over time, it's a lot to ask of a very limitedly funded agency with a small staff who's doing a ton.
Perfect, thank you. All right, any other questions? Not seeing, Sid, thank you for the presentation. I know this was an information-only item. Stacy, do you have anything?
Nope.
Nope. All right, thank you for the presentation, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, we're moving on. Item number 8, this is information items. These items are included for informational purposes. No presentations will be made by staff unless board members have any questions. Does anyone have any questions on items 8A, B, or C? All right, moving now to item number 9. This is the consent calendar. All consent calendar items listed below may be acted upon with one vote unless specifically removed for separate consideration by a member of the board, a member of the staff, or a member of the public. All right, would anybody from the board like to remove an item? Anybody from the public would like to remove an item? If not, we're voting on items 9A, 9A, B, and C. Multiple items there. All right. So
Move to approve as submitted.
we had a motion by Director Amabile, and I believe the second by Director Pedroso. Before we call for the question, would any members of the public like to comment on any of these items? Not seeing one. Bring it back to the dais. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the Merced County Association of Governments, item 10. These are action items. Each item will be considered separately by the board. Public comment will be available during each item. 10A is to adopt the MCAG other programs budget for fiscal year 26-27 with the current member due schedule. And we will go to Nav.
Good afternoon, directors. I'm gonna let Renee Reeves, my county manager, handle this item. It's for staff development, so don't take it easy on.
I was just gonna say I'm not Nav, so. Okay, so this is an action item to adopt the FY 2026-2027 MCAG other programs budget. So the other programs budget for MCAG is for activities that are not transportation planning related. So the key budget priorities include continuing funding for the One Voice program, and providing administrative and management support for yards, TJPA, and regional waste operations. It supports SAFE, the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Program, and Public Records Act, and the Freedom of Information Act activities. The proposed budget is balanced at $9.4 million, which is an increase about $336,000 from prior year. The increase is primarily due to an increase in regional waste and SAFE funding. Regional waste administration and operational support remains the largest budget component at approximately $6.7 million. For the budget, 99% of the expenditures are for staff salaries, benefits, and indirect costs. The remaining 1% is for direct services and materials. So the requested action is to adopt MCAG other program budget for FY 2026-27 with the current membership due schedule. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Does anybody have any questions? Not seeing any immediately. I will ask, does any member of the public have any questions on this item? Not seeing any. We'll bring it back to the dais. So we have a motion by Director Pedroso, a second by the birthday boy Director Kale. All right, if there are no further questions or comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to, thank you, Renee. Item 10B, approve the congestion mitigation, air quality, and carbon reduction program project programming and adopt the resolution 2026/06-18-02, approving 2025 Federal Transportation Improvement Program, FTIP, amendment number 14, and we will go to Elizabeth.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So this item seems a little long and complicated, but I'll try to put on my programming hat and explain things in a way that makes sense. So I did start the staff report with a couple of definitions of some of these terms we use all the time to kind of explain where we are, and not just for now, but just for your general understanding of the program and updates that we'll give going forward. So in these federal programs, we are given an apportionment. That's how much we're given per year. And for the CMAQ program, Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality, it's about $4 million a year. So when we approve programming from this end, it's the board making the project selection for the program and then assigning funding to specific projects. So we have a lot of projects programmed. The next step is obligation. So it's when a project, goes through Caltrans and gets everything it needs to be approved and be authorized to spend the funds. That's where we come into, some difficulty, and that's kind of why we're talking about this today. Lapsing. So if funding is not used within 3 years, we lose it. And I mentioned the staff report, we can either use it, loan it, or lose it. So those are our 3 options. We're not gonna lose it because I hope we'll use it or we'll loan it. And then the last thing is a rescission. You'll hear about that sometimes. It has happened. It happens a few times a decade where, the administration or, takes the funding back or ends a program or something like that. So that's kind of where we're at now. So you can go back one, Michael, not quite ready, almost. So at the moment, we have about 2.5 years of our apportionments. So we have a little bit over $9 million in our CMAQ program, and we get about 4 a year. And so we're on I call it the bad list. We're on the bad list where we have 1.3 million that will lapse at the end of the year if we don't use it.
At the end of the fiscal year?
At the end of the federal fiscal year.
Which is in September 30th. Okay.
Yes. So it needs to be obligated by September 30th. And Caltrans doesn't want to wait, for us to submit projects until September 30th. They want them now. They take a couple months to review, so that's where we are now. We can loan those funds out to another agency, and MCAG has done it before, and it's not uncommon. What we talked about internally is, so we do have a lot of projects programmed. One of the issues, and I'll just, report to the board, we work with Public Works. There's all kinds of issues that come up with projects, and I'm sure you all know that. One of our issues is that the projects fall behind, often. So that's, where we end up with these holes, where we have funding and we don't have projects that are getting obligated. So first, we check in with all the agencies. Hey, we have a whole list of projects, like who's ready to go? Like who can move something up? And we didn't have enough that could move up to use this funding that's at risk of lapsing. So internally, we released a call for projects. So this board approves a call for projects procedure. So we have policies, scoring criteria, and procedures. Typically, we ask the board maybe release a call for projects. In this case, I put stuff out to all the agencies saying the board hasn't approved this. This is a staff proposal to use our funds. And we use the board approved procedures to select projects. So the criteria for this was, hey, who can get a project in by August is what I was asking, because they need a couple months to review. Who can get a project in by August? We don't want to be losing some funds. I've been focusing on CMAQ because that's a program where we get funds every single year, routinely, $4 million. There is also a program called the Carbon Reduction Program. It's kind of a one-time program that was in the, we call it the IJA bill, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, that probably won't continue in the future and that will probably be rescinded soon. So that one is like, we're not on the list, but it's at risk because the administration doesn't love the program and it could be rescinded. I would say that it's at risk. So we did a quick call for projects with a quick turnaround with all the agencies. Can you go to the next slide, please, Michael? And so these are the projects that that we received that could move forward by August for submittal. So you're not going to see some, a new roundabout or a new bike path that's very complex, because they are. These are ones that can get in pretty quickly to use some of those funds. You'll see some street sweepers for 3 of the agencies, and also Gustine and Atwater each got street sweepers last year. So they already got one. Maybe don't need one, or maybe another one at the moment, because the street sweepers actually you can't use more than $499,000 in federal funds on the sweepers. So it's still a significant cost to the agencies. So we have applications for 3 street sweepers, and the carbon reduction program has a pretty limited scope. A little bit limited for bike and ped. You can't do, usually roundabouts and signals and things like that. It also has requirements for funding to be spent in areas with a population under 5,000. So that's where it's been hard for some of the agencies, if you imagine statewide, to give some of their money to areas with populations under 5,000. But the county did submit one for a plan that they could, receive funding for Cressy and Balico. So those are the projects that have been prepared and presented in the FTIP to be included this year, to use some of those funds so that they don't lapse, and also so that we don't have to loan them out, which, we could if we need to, as I say. It's not would you mind going to the next slide, please? In addition, so those that I just showed are part of the FTIP amendment that, if you approve, would be approved today and would be added to our list of projects. We also got a request from Gustine for additional funding on a project that was approved years ago. So if you can see on the slide, it was awarded $487,000. And I looked back, and the original application was in 2014. So they're getting ready to go out to bid and requesting an additional $464,000, because our new estimate is closer to $1 million than $500,000. So they have requested additional funds, which this board can also authorize if you so choose to. It's not part of the FTIP, but it would be added on to an additional project. So that's part of the project selection, part of the action here. And then I have a note that we did receive an application from Livingston, but it wouldn't be in time for this fiscal year. I think they said they could start it possibly in October. So I told them, keep that application for next time, but it can't be done within the scope of the call for projects that we put out. So what I'm recommending to the board is that you approve the 4 projects from the prior slide to be added to the CMAQ program, and the additional funding of up to $464,000 for Gustine for their roundabout. We do have the funding available to do that. There aren't other projects on the list that would be bumped off the program or anything like that. None of them were ready to go. I also want to mention that I'm working with some of the agencies now to try to accelerate some projects, see what they can use, working with Gustine, working with Merced, like a lot of the agencies. So it's just one of those things that's, difficult. Sometimes get thrown in. You guys probably hear it more than I do about how hard it is to do some of these capital projects. But so that's where I'm at, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Anybody from the board have any questions at this time?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah, quick question. Tell me about this loan program. You said to other agencies. Which other agencies would that be? And would they have to be combined within the guidelines of the CMAQ?
Sorry, what was the first part of your question?
When you said you can loan this money to other agencies, are you referring to other COGs, or can be local municipalities? I mean, I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, it would be to other MPOs. So there's 18 of us. It would be to Sacramento or Kern or somebody.
Not necessarily another city within.
No, it has to go to an MPO. We've traded before with like Tulare County and whatnot, and we usually trade back in 1 or 2 years without interest is how it typically works.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other questions right now, so I will ask, is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this item? Don't see anyone?
I just want to recognize Elizabeth. She really did a great job. This is a very, very, very complex item, and she somehow managed to make it make a lot of sense. So great job. I mean, the way you presented it today. But just I'll want to recognize that this has not been an easy. This has been very time consuming in trying to manage these project delays and not let money be lapsing for us and everything. So I just want to recognize, I know it's been a lot of work on your end, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, because you'll hear later we got the RTP out. And I was like, we could have just loaned this out, but I'm not going to let that happen if I can help it. So
I'm pretty sure that's what I said. Just loan it out. She's like, no, we're going to get a solution. And she did. So great job.
Perfect. And the jurisdictions that obviously you did the reach out, but stepping up and being able to spend some of this money so that we don't have to loan it out or ultimately lose it. So if I don't see any other questions from the dais, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
So I have a motion by Director Pereira, second by Director Samra, to move forward with this item and amending 2025 FTIP Amendment Number 14 with the ones listed in the staff report, with the additional $464,648 going to a project already approved in Gustine. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Not seeing anyone. The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 10B. This is authorized out-of-state travel for designated staff to attend the following: the 2025 Valley Voice trip to Washington, D.C., the Transportation Research Conference in Washington, D.C., and the 2027 One Voice trip to Washington, D.C. Is that all of them? And yep, that's it. All right, Renee, you're up.
Again, so this is an action item to authorize out-of-state travel for FY 2026-27. So staff is requesting authorization for out-of-state travel for 2026-27. It's for 3 travels. So one is the One Voice, which is an annual federal legislative advocacy trip to Washington, D.C., and the key opportunities to elevate Merced County's priorities and secure funding for major transportation and infrastructure projects. And then the second trip is the Valley Voice. It's similar to the One Voice trip. It's organized in partnership with other regional transportation planning agencies and Council of Governments from San Joaquin Valley. And then the third trip is the Transportation Research Board Conference. It's an annual conference meeting that attracts thousands of transportation professionals around the world. The program covers all transportation modes with sessions and workshops addressing topics of interest. These travel requests were anticipated and built in the FY 2026-27 budget, so no additional funding is being requested at this time. And then this is an action item to authorize the out-of-state travel for the 3 trips. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question for you, Renee. So if it's already built in the budgets, why are we having to vote on this item?
Because we want to make sure that you guys are authorizing us, like the staff members and some of the boards and that are going to be attending the trip.
Thank you. I knew the answer to the question already.
The other budget has the One Voice platform on there, so once that's approved, that's why we take all this at one time.
And the board authorizes the budget in lump sum for travel. When we formulated that travel budget number, it took into consideration that we would be asking for this, but we need board approval on any out-of-state travel.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions from the dais? No, okay. Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Not seeing any, we'll bring it back to the board. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Director Samra, second by Director Pacheco. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 10D is elect a chair and vice chair for fiscal year 26-27. Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think everyone is familiar at this point with our chair rotation policy, but I'll try to keep it brief and I'll go back if you have any other questions. So we're at the time of year that we need to elect a new chair for starting July 1 and a new vice chair. The chair rotation policy is a guidance document that ensures that there's a tracking of particularly the city chair positions to make sure that there is some kind of a rotation to ensure that all jurisdictions have an opportunity, and that alternates with the county nominating a person to fill the opposite. So if we have a city chair, we have a county vice chair, and vice versa. With Chair Silvera's term ending at the end of this month, we need to elect a new chairperson. The history or the practice of the board would be to nominate and elect Vice Chair Samra to serve as the chair in the coming year, and then the county. So I specifically say the county because it's not an MCAG board decision to identify the county supervisor to fill the vice chair role. It would be among the county supervisors to make that decision. So the motion is to nominate and elect Vice Chair Samra, representing the City of Livingston, to serve as the chairperson starting July 1, 2026, and to nominate and elect a director representing the County of Merced to serve as vice chair.
Before we entertain any nominations, does any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Not seeing one. Director Pedroso?
Yeah, are we going to nominate chair and vice chair at the same time? Okay, I'd like to nominate Director Samra as chair and Director Pacheco as vice chair.
So we have a motion by Director Pedroso to nominate Director Samra as chair, Director Pacheco as vice chair. We have a second by Director Pereira. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. All right, moving on. Item 11 is discussion items. These items will be presented separately. These items will be presented separately in order to allow board members to ask questions or to provide staff direction. And we will go to item 11A. This is the draft 2026 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategies. And we're going to go to, well, it says Elizabeth and Meg, but I don't see Meg up here, so it's just going to be Elizabeth.
If you have hard questions, I'll call her up.
Okay.
You can call her up. Okay, so our 2026 Regional Transportation Plan, fondly known as our RTP, is on our website and out for public review now. We update this plan every 4 years. The comment period is through July 1st. Also, earlier this week, I think yesterday or Tuesday, our environmental impact report was also released. You can find that as well. It is the environmental impact report for the RTP. On July 1st, we will be releasing our Federal Transportation Improvement Program, the FTIP we were just talking about, and our air quality conformity document. As we talked about internally.
Just one second. I just want to once again let the record reflect that Director Kale's birthday is today, and he has to leave the meeting just a tad bit early. So happy birthday, John. Happy birthday. I know. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Sorry, Elizabeth, for the interruption. Please continue.
So, so I was updating you on the really great documents we have out for some light reading. We discussed that this morning. Our air quality document is very hard to read. But those are all out. They're super important, of course. The RTP, more so for the public. It's a document that explains everything that we plan to do between now and 2049. And our federal partners, of course, are looking really closely at our programming documents and our air quality documents. We have 2 public hearings that are planned in July. One of them will be here at our July board meeting, and the other will be in Los Banos on the 13th at 5:30. Yes, 5:30 at the Community Center in Los Banos. Our public notices, I'm going to steal some of Stacy's thunder maybe, or maybe you can say it later. Our public notices note that we expect to adopt the documents on August 20th at this board meeting. It has been just a wild time with air quality issues with EPA, with the Air Resources Board. It's been really wild. I will say that we haven't directly had issues in Merced County, but we are tied to the other 7 counties in our air basin. So if anyone fails, we're all in trouble in that way. And so we have, some MPOs failing on this pollutant and some on that. And so we have a consultant and a good team that we've been working with EPA to try to come up with fixes. There's all these things. Can we revise the budget? Can we get a delay on this? I mean, there's all these things we've been working on. Right now, we're a little bit up in the air between 2 options. And we don't know how fast EPA will act on the 2008 ozone budgets for us. I mean, I know it's a mess and we're always trying to figure it out. Long story short is it may not be possible to adopt August 20th, and we must adopt by September 30th. So Stacy, might be talking about that, we do have a September meeting scheduled, and we know it's difficult to attend, but it might be required, and not because we necessarily want to, but we may have to.
Well, let's just keep it, I'll do it now quickly. You should still have the September board meeting. We have been going dark because it's a big conflict for the county supervisors, I believe, but we held on to it and we didn't take it off your calendar for this exact potential, which we didn't think was really going to be necessary, but it may. So it's on your calendar. If EPA does not act and we can't adopt in August, we must have, even if it's just a 1-item board meeting, but we have to meet in September. We're going to try really hard not to do that, but it's really outside our control. So just know that that's where we sit on September, and more to come.
I mean, we're trying. We're saying, okay, in August, can we have 2 resolutions or have one saying contingent on this or contingent on that? But we may not be allowed to do that, and we might need to just wait and see the EPA resolution before we can adopt. But we'll definitely keep you updated, and like I said, hearings next month and everything's posted online, so you can send us comments, or I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Elizabeth? All right. Thank you for the update. All right. Measure V expenditure update, Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is your 6-month progress report on expenditures. There's not a lot to report, so I'll just go quickly. Next slide, please. This is the East Side region, so this is just your regional projects, just to kind of get you back reoriented to this massive document. This is tracking progress on expenditures for already programmed regional projects. This is the East Side. On column A, you're seeing what is programmed available to them through the end of this fiscal year. So it's an accumulation of funds that are available. The column B in red is what has been expended through March 31st of 2026, because we're always, a few months behind in terms of our reporting. And then, so you take A minus B, and that gives you the balance of funds that are sitting there available to those projects. C is if a project has funding that is coming, that is either next fiscal year or later, that isn't available to them, but it's important to note. And then you see the total of the measure funds at the far right column. So if you go down the rows, if it has a red tag, it means there's been no progress on expenditures since the last update, which was in December, and that was through October of 2025. If you see green, it's because there's a very reasonable, it doesn't feel right to put a red marker on the county, because we know progress is, there's an explanation. We know it's around the corner. It's kind of going as planned. And also for Livingston, because in the 2025 plan that we just got adopted, they have moved their funding out, and we know that transit center funding now is going to be moved out. So there wasn't anticipated any activity for that project. So the bottom line on the east side, the progress over the last 6 months in terms of expenditures across all projects was $47,283. Let's go. And then there are closeout projects. These are just going to be a running list of projects that have closed out, and there was no change in the last 6 months. On the west side, similarly, going down the rows, Gustine has a green flag, even though it hadn't spent any funds. That project is in the current plan that just got adopted, that project is being deprogrammed. So, and those funds were moved to a different project, so we didn't expect that. And then the other on Hunt Road is that original scope of work was completed, but we were waiting for the implementation plan to allocate additional funding that is allowing the county to expand the scope of that project. So all other red flags are indicating where projects have not made progress in terms of, now, you might have made progress. You have not submitted reimbursements to us in the last 6 months. But for what we're reporting here, it's all the same. But what you do see on the west side is a change over the last 6 months in the amount of $1,338,783. And then you have 2 projects that were moved over to the closed out list on the west side. That was the Doss Palace Blossom Street East project, and then the Palm Avenue Rehab project. Those were moved over to closeout, so we have a greater number, almost $14 million in closed out projects there. And then we do have this outlier that's way out, or it's not so far out anymore, but a future project that isn't captured in any of those for the Ingomar grade, and it's waiting for its money soon, in another year. And that is the update for expenditures. Any questions?
Questions for Stacy on this?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the update. We're going to move on to the TJPA 12. These are action items. Action items will be considered separately by the board. Public comment will be available during each item. 12A is to adopt the fiscal year 26-27 operating and capital budgets and authorize the executive director's budget authority for the maintenance equipment budget line item in the amount not to exceed $1.1 million. And we will go to NAV.
Thank you. For your recommendation for adoption for FY 26-27 TJPA operational budget and capital, the operating capital increased by $765,000, which is a 4.6% increase. The increase is basically of fuel, operational maintenance costs, and insurance. This slide right here is our operational expenditures. As you can see, our operational expenditure went up by $345,000, along with fuel that went up by $753,000, which includes the total increase of $765,000 for our expenditures. Our revenues, we saw a decrease in our 5307, which is our urban funding, but we did see an increase in our 5311, which is our rural transit funding, and we did see a decrease in our STA funds, but overall, we do have a balanced budget in this year's for our operation. Any question on the operation budget? Moving on to our capital budget. These are our carrier projects from fiscal year 26-27. We have bus stop installation. We have technically the bus head sign is currently being replaced. Hopefully they'll all be replaced by the end of the year. And then we do have replacement of 7 transfer vehicles. In the original last year's budget, we put there were plug-in electric. We're able to convert those to hybrid. We should be receiving those vehicles in August, September of next fiscal year. And then we'll also be looking at some 4 electric microtransit buses, along with replacing 5 diesel clean buses. And then looking at some electric infrastructure charging for our facilities, and also looking at some SB 125 projects as well. And we are going to be replacing our parking lot rehab in the next fiscal year as well. When we move to the 26-27 new projects, there was one change from last month's draft budget to the adoption. We are also adding 1 additional hydrogen bus, the CMAQ funds of $1.6 million, along with a potential of $135,000 of HVIP. And then we are looking to purchase a property, along with do some rehab on the property, and then purchase 4 cutaways in the amount of $866,000. We were able to receive a grant of 5310 to purchase those vehicles, and also looking to purchase a service truck with a Tommy liftgate. Any questions? Oh, the last thing. We did get our hydrogen trailer in, yes, this week. So we're going to go through our permitting process with the city. That is very extensive. You're going to have the fire department do some testing. And so the goal is to have this operational in late summer, early fall, when we get our demo bus. So once we get this up and running, we'll invite the board to take a look at it, and be good times. So any questions?
Are there any questions for Nav? Director McDaniel.
I was going to say, what he should probably do is locate that bus in at Castle, the trailer, so CAL FIRE can inspect it.
We can. I mean, it is. We just need a semi truck to pull it. I know people that have semi.
I figured. All right. I don't see any questions right now. Is there any members of the public that wish to comment on this item? I'm not seeing anyone. We'll bring it back to the dais. If there are no questions, further questions for Nav on the TJPA budget, Chair would entertain a motion. So I have a motion by Pedroso, a second by Samra. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 12B, this is adopt a resolution number 2026/06-18-01 authorizing funding under FTA section 5311F 49 U.S.C. section 5311 with the California Department of Transportation, and then we will again go to Nav.
That was supposed to be part of the previous item, so.
Okay, well, I did not introduce it that way, so.
I looked at the same thing right now.
Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item? See anyone? Any members of the board wish to comment? Not? I have a motion by Director Pereira, a second by Director Samra. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. There are no discussion items. We're going to move into Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority. These are Act 14 is action items. Action items will be considered separately by the board. Public comment will be available during each item. We're going to go to 14A, which is to adopt the fiscal year 26-27 operating, capital, and fleet budgets and authorize the executive director's budget authority for the equipment maintenance / repair budget line item for fiscal year 26-27 in an amount not to exceed $968,500. And again, we will go to Nav.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Regional Waste Management Authority's operating, capital, and fleet budget. As we last month, we talked about decrease in tonnages along with the revenues that would be decreasing. But just to give the board members another snapshot, 87% of RWA's revenue does come from tipping fees, which is the gate fees along with the jurisdictional rates that we charge. 12% is organic processing, which is a pass-through cost, and then the remaining 1% are grant and interest and other sales that we do when we sell dirt, clean concrete, whatever that we do, but that's that 1%. Moving on to the revenues. Revenues, we see a $4.6 million decrease, which is a 17% decrease in our revenue. The decrease is driven by out-of-county waste and rising fuel costs. As we know, there's been some change this week, but we haven't seen any increase in waste coming in yet, so we'll monitor that as we go along. But any additional revenue that we do get will go into our future capital or fleet budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I just want to say one thing, that the decrease in the out-of-county waste, I mean, we have at the board's direction over the last couple of years, I mean, we're preparing for the point where we'll no longer have bond debt, and that has been the direction we've been given from this board, was to start to, I'll say, wean off of that importation revenue. And so it's not all that, but that has been an ongoing thing that James has been great with his team and making minor adjustments with NAV on importation agreements, making sure those rates are, at getting up to an appropriate level, those types of things. So I just want to call that out, that some of that can be, attributed to those efforts at the direction of the board.
We have raised the rates for haulers by 30% since 2023. But fuel is one of the driving factors and rates. We are also looking at paying off the debt next year's fiscal year, 26-27. So that would be going forward in 27-28. We'll see a $2 million less expenditure. On our expenditures, we saw $898,000 increase, which is a 5% increase. $513,000 is associated with organic waste transfer and which is a pass-through cost to the jurisdictions. 83% of the operating expenses is made up of salaries, equipment, maintenance, fuel, professional services, and solid waste. And when we talk about it's the highlighted in green is what makes up the 83% of the budget. Insurance has gone up, equipment and maintenance repairs, along with IT services. We are going to be looking at replacing a server next year, and special department expenses is we have to pay a fee for for the airspace that we use. So the more airspace, or the fees will go up because we also have received some violations this year because of our gas maintaining system. We're not. How do we?
Is it exceeding our tonnage permitted tonnage amounts?
We also had those fees where we got violations from the air district.
Oh, the air district. Okay, yes, and those come to the board when we get them.
Yeah, and then we do see an increase in electricity cost. We are going to be installing a flare system at our Billy Wright landfill as well. When we talk about the recapping of our operation, $21 million of revenues, $17 million of operating expense, which gives us a gain or loss of operating income of $4 million. Then the $4 million, then we pay about $2.2 million of our bond debt, which will be paid off next year. $15,000 when we say fixed assets, those will be any computers or anything that's outside of our regular purchase. And then the remaining $1.7 million will be transferred to either our fleet or our CIP budget. We'll do that at the end of next fiscal year. So fleet replacement, we're going to be looking at replacing a D6 track dozer. We're going to be looking at rebuilding a motor grader along with a D8 dozer. We're going to be looking to purchase a tarp machine with tarp machine spools. There is no new CIP projects in the next budget. Here, sorry, this is a little bit small, but these are all the CIP projects that have been encumbered since the board. From this board, we have $42 million of authorized projects. We have about $20 million remaining of encumbered projects for RWA. To recap, $21 million revenues, $17 million of operating expense, and the remaining $4 million will get our debt service and capital transfers. Our fleet budget, we will be spending about $1.5 million, and then no new CIP projects for fiscal year 26-27. So any questions?
All right. Does anybody have questions for Nav on this item? Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item? I'm not seeing anyone. We'll bring it back to the dais. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I got Director Reed in as the first and Pedroso as the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Item 14B is authorize the out-of-state travel for designated staff to attend the following: the Archon Annual Solid Waste Association of North America Conference in St. Louis, the Waste Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we'll go to Nav.
Thank you, Chair. Solid Waste Association is SWANA, as you guys hear once in a while. This Archon is a conference that everybody in the nation gets together for this. They all get around and just talk about trash. But they bounce off ideas, what kind of technology they're using for collecting the gas, or how they compress trash. So we send staff out there to build relationships, also learn new technologies and skills. And then WasteCon is a solid waste recycling, organic food waste recovery trade show in Las Vegas, which is it's all the vendors that come out for the waste field. You know, you got Caterpillar, and you have our Scale softwares. Everybody just comes out and demonstrates their software for the landfill. So these are the two out of state travel that's going to be happening for our RWA staff. The budget is already the travel was already included in our budget that was adopted the last item. So any questions?
All right, any questions for Nav on this item?
And I would open up any directors are interested in any of these conferences, please let us know.
I like places where they sit around and talk trash. That's always fun. All right. Yeah. Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Not seeing anyone, we'll bring it back to the dais. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Amabil, a second by Reed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. All right, there are no discussion items. We will go to item number 16. This is the Executive Director's Report, and we'll go to Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to let everyone know that we have our Free Fair July coming up. No cap. Look at find our billboard. You'll see Michael gets credit for that. So for the entire month of July, it's free fares on the bus. So if you don't have the flyers and you would like to share them on social media, contact whoever, me, Nav, Mary Michael, we'll get those to you. But spread the word. It's a great time for people to try it out if they haven't yet. Also, I want to, I believe, and I didn't run this by James, that it's National Waste and Recycling Workers Week. Yes? Okay, good. So I think it's important that we recognize our waste management professionals who keep our communities clean, safe, and sustainable. So if you know a waste or recycling worker, James, Nav practically at this point, he's at the landfill so much, but I saw John Costa here earlier, so just say thank you, shake a hand, take a picture, put it on social, something. So thank you guys. Yeah, wash your hands afterwards. I'm kidding. You should do that anyway with anybody. Also want to mention on the waste, on RWA side, that the deadline to apply for the Integrated Waste Management Local Task Force was extended to June 30. So that information is available. Please, if you know anyone that's interested, send them our way or to our website to apply. And I also want to share that we were recognized by the CENCAL America Planning Association Central Section with an award of excellence under the Transportation Planning Award category for our Mr. Map project, which is the Merced Regional Multimodal Access Plan. The central section of the APA is like an 11-county region, so it's Fresno, Inyo, Kern, Kings, Madera, Mariposa, Merced, Mono, Stanislaus, Tulare, and Tuolumne counties. And so our team was recognized by the Central Valley chapter for this project and they noted, I have their whole commentary, I won't read, but talking about how the project had clear next steps, strong regional collaboration. It was developed with broad community input, provides strategic path forward to deliver long-lasting benefits for communities across Merced County. And it did identify 18 new multimodal projects throughout the area, so just a really great project. So I do want to recognize Meg Prince. She was the project lead for this, so congratulations, Meg, and to the whole team. Well done, and we have a fancy plaque. So. No check. I think they want us to send them a check. No. And then lastly, I just want to remind folks that our city-county dinner, MCAG is hosting. It'll be immediately after the July 16th board meeting at Hill Marchese.
Thank you. All right, director's reports. Director Ford. Director Samra.
Tuesday, we passed our budget, and one of the most exciting things we passed was we finally funded and approved the Wooden Parkway extension from B Street to F Street. So it'll no longer end, it'll continue. In fact, all those larger-than-life cutouts and all that stuff's already been moved. We're just waiting for PG&E, and then we're going to be completing this project by end of the year.
Well, you said you're waiting for PG&E, so I don't know.
Well, the good thing is there's that self-help project going on right there, so they're already there. So it was perfect timing.
Perfect. All right. Director Pedroso, Director Serrato, Director Director Pereira.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for, I won't be able to make the city-county dinner, unfortunately, but thank you for hosting it in District 4, and I'll send a bottle of wine.
Right, to my table?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, Director Ammonville. Director Reed.
Nothing to report. You missed it.
Oh, I didn't see you back there. Director McDaniel.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Sorry. Council, anything? No, I just want to say congratulations to Director Samra and Director Pacheco is not here, as they will be taking over next month. And with that, our...
The new guidelines, too.
Oh, yeah, with SB 707, isn't it? Okay, very good. We're going to ask all of you that are not involved in closed session, if you could leave the room. We'll go into closed session. Closed session. Oh wait, the public will be provided an opportunity to comment on any matter to be considered in closed session prior to the board adjourning into closed session. Would any members of the public wish to comment on this item? And this is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Okay. Now, if you have no business with this item, we'll ask you to step outside.
Please don't take your plans. I have two. I have mine.
Yeah. It is.
Recording in progress.
All right, we've now come out of closed session. Staff was given direction, and we are now adjourned, and it is at 5:04. Thank you.